So good day everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. By the way, I am Trexie Hacosalan, together with my group mates, starting with Jelaita Hidalgo, Julene Claire Insi, and Aropafeya Tamaudos. And our topic for today is all about laws related to governance of education. So now, let's proceed to our objective. So at the end of the lesson, the student will be able to first identify the laws related to governance of education. Second is define what are the Batas Pambansa BLG 232 and Educational Act of 1982. Third is discuss the right of all citizens to quality basic education. And lastly, recognize the importance of TESDAS assessment and certification program. Now, let's proceed to our discussion. So, the following are the excerpts of laws on the solid foundation of why and how educational institutions exist. So first, the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. Second is the Batas Pambansa BLJ number 232. Third is the Republic Act number 7160, known as the Local Government Code. Fourth is the Republic Act 9155, also known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Fifth is the Executive Order number 356, renaming the Bureau of Non-Formal Education to Bureau of Alternative Learning System. And lastly, the Republic Act 6655, the Free Public Secondary Education Act of 1988. The 1987's Constitution. So the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. So the state must preserve and promote all citizens' right to a high-quality education at all levels, as well as take reasonable actions to ensure that such education is available to everyone. So next is establish, maintain, and support a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the needs of the people and society. So this constitution used to establish, maintain, and promote a comprehensive, appropriate, and integrated education system that meets the needs of people and society. So next is establish and maintain a system of free public education in the elementary and high school levels. So without limiting the natural right of parents to rear the children, elementary education is compulsory for all children of school age. So establish and maintain a free public elementary and secondary school education system. So it is very important that elementary education is required for all children of school age without affecting the natural right of parents to hinder their children to go to school. It's important also to establish and maintain a system of scholarship grants, student loan programs, subsidies, and other incentives which shall be available to deserving students in both public and private schools, especially to the underprivileged. So create a system of scholarships, student loan programs, subsidies, and other incentives for worthy students in public and private schools, particularly those from low-income families. So next is encourage non-formal, informal, and indigenous learning systems, as well as self-learning, independent, and out-of-school study programs, particularly those that respond to community needs. And lastly, provide adult citizens that's able and out-of-school youth training in civics, educational efficiency, and other skills. Next is the section number 1's constitution as part of the curricula. First is, shall inculcate patriotism and nationalism, foster love of humanity, respect for human rights, appreciation of the rule of national heroes, and the historical development of the country, teach the rights and duties of citizenship, strengthen ethical and spiritual values, develop moral character and personal discipline, encourage critical and creative thinking, broaden scientific and technological knowledge, and promote vocational efficiency. So they must instill patriotism and nationalism, foster love of humanity, respect for human rights, and an understanding of the role of national heroes and the country's history. Teach citizenship, rights and responsibilities, strengthen ethical and spiritual values, develop moral character and personal disciplines, encourage critical and creative thinking, broaden scientific and technological knowledge, and promote vocational efficiency. Second is, religion shall be allowed to be taught to their children or wards in public elementary and high schools within the regular class hours by instructors designated or approved by the religious authorities of the religion to which the children or wards belong without additional cost to the government. So the Constitution allowed religion to teach the children or wards in public elementary and secondary schools during regular class hours by instructors selected or recognized by the religious authority of the religion to which the children or wards belong at no cost to the government. So third is, the complementary rules of public and private institutions in the educational system shall be recognized, and the government shall exercise reasonable supervision and regulation of all educational institutions. So the government must conduct reasonable oversight and regulation of all educational institutions, because in the complementary functions of public and private institutions in the educational system must be recognized. So next is the section number 4, which is the ownership of educational institutions. So first is, educational institutions other than those established by religious groups and mission boards shall be owned solely by citizens of the Philippines or corporations or associations to least 60% of the capital of which is owned by such citizens. So the Congress may however require and increase Filipino equity participation in all educational institutions. So other than religious organizations and mission boards, educational institutions must be owned entirely by Filipino citizens or businesses or associations with at least 60% of their capital owned by Filipino nationals. So increased Filipino equality participation in all educational institutions may be required by Congress. Number 2, no educational institution shall be established exclusively for aliens, and no groups of aliens shall comprise more than 1/3 of the enrollment in any school except schools established for foreign diplomatic personnel and their dependents, and unless otherwise provided by law, for other foreign temporary residents. So, except for school established for foreign diplomatic personnel and their dependents, and unless otherwise provided by law, for other foreign temporary residents, so no educational institution shall be established exclusively for aliens, and no group of aliens shall constitute more than 1/3 of the enrollment in any school. So third is, all revenues and assets of non-stock and non-profit educational institutions used actually, directly, and inclusively for educational purposes shall be exempted by taxes and duties. So, let's proceed in the section 5, the state of educational policies and programs. So first is, academic freedom shall be enjoyed in all institutions of higher learning. So, academic freedom is guaranteed at all higher education institutions. Second, every citizen has a right to select a profession or course of study subject to fair, reasonable, and equitable admission and academic requirements. So every citizen daw has a freedom to choose a profession or course of study, provided that admission and academic standards are for reasonable and equitable. So third is, the state shall enhance the right of teachers to professional advancement. Non-teaching academic and non-academic personnel shall enjoy the protection of the state. So teachers has a right to professional progress will be strengthened by the state. So academic and non-academic workers who are not teaching shall be protected by the state. So fourth is the state shall assign the highest budgeting priority to education and ensure that teaching will attract and retain its rightful share of the best available talents through adequate remuneration and other means of job satisfaction and fulfillment. The next is Constitution in language. So section number 6 shows that the national language of the Philippines is Filipino. Section number 7 tells that for purposes of communication and instruction, the official languages of the Philippines are Filipino and until otherwise provided by law, English, Spanish, and Arabic shall be promoted on a voluntary and optional basis. So section number 9 tells that the Congress shall establish a national language commission composed of representatives of various regions and disciplines which shall undertake, coordinate, and promote researches for the development, propagation, and preservation of Filipino and other languages. So the legislative will create a national language commission made up of representatives for many regions and disciplines. Also to conduct, coordinate, and support research for the development, propagation, and preservation of Filipino and other languages. So next is the science and technology. So section number 10 tells that priority on the research and development, invention, innovation, and their utilization, and to science and technology education, training, and services. So priority should be given to science and technology education, training and services, as well as research and development, invention in their application. Section number 11, provisions of incentives to deserving science students, researchers, scientists, inventors, technologies, and especially gifted citizens. And section number 12 says that regulating the transfer and promotion of technology from all sources of the national benefit. Also, in section number 13 tells that protection and securing the exclusive rights of scientists, inventors, artists, and other gifted citizens to their intellectual property and creations. So next is the arts and culture. Section number 14, fostering the preservation, enrichment, and dynamic evolution of Filipino national culture based on the principle of unity in diversity in a climate of free artistic and intellectual expression. So fostering the preservation, enrichment, and dynamic evolution of a Filipino national culture founded on the premise of unity in variety in an atmosphere of creative intellectual freedom. Section number 15, conserving, promoting, and popularizing the nation's historical and cultural heritage and resources as well as artistic creations. So conserving and promoting and popularizing the country's historical and cultural legacy as well as the artistic creations. And also, section number 16 tells that protection of all the country's artistic and historic wealth that constitutes the cultural treasure of the nation. Cultural treasure of the nation. Section number 17 also tells that recognizing, respecting, and protecting the rights of indigenous cultural communities to preserve and develop their cultures, traditions, and institutions, and consideration in the formulation of natural plans and policies. So recognizing, respecting, and safeguarding indigenous cultural communities' rights to retain and develop their cultures, traditions, and institutions, as well as taking into account the developing national plans and policies. So that's all, and now I give the floor to the next reporter.
Batas Pambansa bilang 232 Educational Act of 1982. So Section 3, the contribution of the educational system to the attainment of the following developmental goals.
So it is the section that achieve and maintain the accelerating rate of economic development and social progress, and also to ensure the maximum participation and enjoyment of the benefit of such growth, to achieve and strengthen national unity and consciousness, and preserve, develop, and promote desirable cultural, moral, and values in a changing world. So Section 4, the aims of educational system. It provides for broad general education. The will assist each individual in the peculiar ecology of his own society. It attain his potentials as human being, enhance the range and quality of individual and group participation in the basic functions of society, acquire the essential educational foundation of his development into a productive and versatile citizen. Number 2, train nation manpower in the middle level skills for national development. And number 3, develop the profession that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge for improving the quality of human life. Number 4, respond effectively changing needs and conditions of the nation through a system of educational planning and evolution.
Section 6, the educational community. So this section is for parents, students, school personnel, or all persons working for an educational institution, teaching or academic staff, or all persons engaged in actual teaching or research assignments either on full-time or part-time basis in all levels of educational systems. School administrators or all persons occupying policy implementing positions having to do with the functions of the school in all levels, academic non-teaching personnel or those persons holding some academic qualification and performing academic functions directly. Section 8, the rights of parents. The right to organize by themselves and or with teachers for the purpose of providing a forum for the discussion of matters relating to the total school program and for ensuring the full cooperation of parents and teachers in the formulation and efficient implementation of such programs. The right to access to any official record directly relating to the children who are under the parental responsibility. Section 9, the right of students in school. So it is the right to receive primarily through competent instruction, relevant quality education in line with national goals and conducive to their full development as persons with human dignity, to freely choose their field of study subject to existing curricula and to continue their course, the right to the school guidance and counseling services, the access to his own school records, the confidentiality of which the school shall maintain and preserve, the right to the assurance of official certificate, diplomas, transcript of records, grades, transfer, credentials, the right to publish a student newspaper and similar publication, the free will express its opinions and suggestions, the right to be free from involuntary contribution except those approved by their own organizations or societies. Section 10, right of all school personnel. So this is the rights for all school personnel to be provided with free legal service by the appropriate government office in the case of public school personnel, and through the school authorities concerned in the case of private school personnel when charged in an administrative, civil, or criminal proceedings by parties other than school or regulatory authorities concerned for actions committed directly in the lawful discharge of professional duties or in defense of school policies, the right to establish, join, and maintain labor organizations, professional and self-regulating organization of their choice to promote their welfare and defend their interests. Section 11, Special Rights or Privileges of Teaching or Academic Act. The right to be free from compulsory assignments not related to their duties as defined in their appointments or employment contracts unless compensated therefore, and conformably to existing law. The right to intellectual property consistent with applicable laws. Teachers shall be deemed persons of authority within discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities, and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protection. Teachers shall be afforded the opportunity to choose alternative career lines either in school administration, in classroom teaching, or other purposes of career advancement. Section 14, Duties of Parents. Parents individually or collectively through the school systems shall help carry out educational objectives in accordance with national goals. Parents shall be obligated to enable their children to obtain elementary education and shall strive to enable them to obtain secondary and higher education in the pursuance of the right formation of the youth. Parents shall cooperate with the school in the implementation of the school program, curricular, and co-curricular. Section 15, Duties and Responsibilities of Students. It is the exert his utmost to develop his potentialities for service, particularly by undergoing an education suited to his abilities in order that he may become an asset to his family and to society. Uphold the academic integrity of the school, endeavor to achieve academic excellence and abide by the rules and regulations governing his academic responsibilities and moral integrity. Promote and maintain the peace and tranquility of the school by observing the rules and discipline and by exerting efforts to attain harmonious relationships with fellow students and teaching and academic staff and other school personnel.
Section 16, Teacher's Obligation. It is perform his duties to the school by discharging his responsibilities in accordance with the philosophy, goals, and objectives of the school. Be accountable for the efficient and effective attainment of specified learning objectives in pursuance of national development goals within the limits of available school resources. Render regular reports on performance of each student and the latter's parents and the guardians with specific suggestions for improvement. Assume the responsibility to maintain and sustain his professional growth and advancement and maintain professionalism in his behavior at all times. Refrain from making deductions in students' scholastic rating for acts that are clearly not manifestations of poor scholarships. Participate as an agent of constructive moral, intellectual, cultural, and political change in his school and the community within the context of national policies.
Section 20, Formal Education Levels. Formal education shall correspond to the following levels. Elementary education. The first stage of compulsory formal education primarily concerned with providing basic education and usually corresponding to 6 or 7 grades, including preschool programs. Secondary education, the state of formal education following the elementary level, concerned primarily with continuing basic education, expanding it to include the learning of employable gainful skills, usually corresponding to 4 years of high school. Tertiary education, post-secondary schooling is higher education leading to a degree in a specific profession or discipline.
Section 21, Objectives of Elementary Education. This is a basic education, provide knowledge and develop the skills, attitudes, and values.
Section 22, the Objectives of Secondary Education, is to continue to promote the objectives of elementary education, to discover and enhance the different attitudes and interests of the students so as to equip with skills for productive endeavor or prepare him for tertiary schooling. Section 23, the Objectives of Tertiary Education. This section provides a general education program that will promote national identity, cultural consciousness, moral integrity, and spiritual virtue, to train the nation's manpower in the skills required for national development, to develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation, to advance knowledge through research, work, and applying new knowledge for improving the quality of human life and responding effectively to changing the societal needs and conditions. Section 24, Specialized Education Service. The state further recognizes its responsibility to provide, within the context of the formal education system, services to meet special needs of certain clientele. These specific types, which shall be guided by the basic policies of the state embodied in the general provisions of this Act. Work education or practical arts, which aims to develop the right attitude towards work, and technical vocational education, post-secondary but non-degree programs. Special education, the education of persons who are physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, or culturally different from the so-called normal. And also non-formal education, any organized school-based educational activities undertaken by Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports and other agencies aimed at attaining specific learning objectives for a particular clientele, especially the illiterates and the out-of-school youth and adults distinct. Section 25, Establishment of Schools. All schools shall be established in accordance with law. The establishment of new national schools and the conversion of existing schools from elementary to national secondary or from secondary to national, secondary or tertiary schools shall be law, provided that any private school proposed to be established must incorporate as a non-stock educational corporation in accordance with the provisions of the Corporation Code of the Philippines. This requirement to incorporate may be waived in the case of family-administered preschool institutions. Government assistance to such schools for educational programs shall be used exclusively for that purpose. Section 27, Recognition of Schools.
In the case of government-operated schools, whether local, regional, or national, recognition of educational programs or operations shall be deemed granted simultaneously with establishment. Section 59, Functions of the Board of Higher Education. The main thrust of higher education is to achieve equity, efficiency, and high quality in the institutions of higher learning, both public and private, so that together they will provide a complete set of program offerings that meet both national and regional development needs.
Section 62, Function of the Bureau of Elementary Education. Conduct studies and formulate, develop, and evaluate programs and educational standards for elementary education. Undertake studies necessary for the preparation of prototype curricular designs, instructional materials, and teacher training programs for elementary education. Formulate guidelines to improve elementary school physical plans and equipment and general management of these schools.
Section 63, Function of the Bureau of Secondary Education. It is conduct studies and formulate, develop, and evaluate programs and educational standards for secondary education. It develops curricular designs, prepare instructional materials, and prepare and evaluate programs to update the quality of the teaching and non-teaching staff of the secondary level. Formulate guidelines to improve the secondary school, physical plans and equipment, and general management of these schools.
Section 64, Function of the Bureau of Technical and Vocational Education. So this is collaborate with other agencies in the formulation of manpower plans, conduct studies, formulate, develop, and evaluate post-secondary vocational technical programs and recommended educational standards for these programs. Develop curricular designs and prepare instructional materials, prepare and evaluate programs to upgrade the quality of teaching and non-teaching staff, and formulate guidelines to improve the physical plant and equipment of post-secondary vocational technical schools. Section 65, Function of the Bureau of Higher Education. Develop, formulate, and evaluate programs, projects, and educational standards for higher education. Provide staff assistance to the Board of Higher Education in its policy formulation and advisory functions. Provide technical assistance to encourage institutional development programs and projects. Compile, analyze, and evaluate data on higher education. Perform other functions provided for by Section 66. Function of the Bureau of Continuing Education. The Bureau shall provide learning programs or activities that shall
serve as a means of meeting the learning needs of those unable to avail themselves of the educational services of the programs of formal education, provide opportunities for the acquisition of skills necessary to enhance and ensure continuing employability, efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness in the labor market. Serve as a means for expanding access to educational opportunities to citizens of varied interests, demographic characteristics, and socioeconomic origins or status.
Good day everyone, so my name is Jalaika Hidalgo and let's proceed to the next topic, which is Republic Act number 7160, an act providing for a local government code of 1991. Section 1, Policy and Application. This act shall known as cite as the Local Government Code of 1991. Next is Section 98, Creation, Composition, and Compensation. 8. There shall be established in every province, city, or municipality a provincial, city, or municipal school board respectively. B. The composition of local school boards shall be as follows. The provincial school board should be composed as the governor and the division superintendent of school as co-chairman of the education committee of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan. The provincial treasurer, the representative of the federation ng mga Sangguniang Kabataan in the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, the duly elected president of the provincial federation of parents teachers associations, the duly elected representative of the teachers organization in the province, and the duly elected representative of the non-academic personnel of public schools in the province. Next is number 2. The city school board shall be composed of the city of mayor and the city of superintendent of the school as co-chairman. The chairman of the education committee of the Sangguniang Panglungsod, the city treasurer, the representative of the federation ng mga Sangguniang Kabataan in the Sangguniang Panglungsod, the duly elected president of the duly federation of the parents teachers associations, the duly elected representative of non-academic personnel of public school in the city as members. And last is number 3. The municipal school board shall be composed of the municipal mayor and the district supervisor of schools as co-chairman, and the chairman of the education committee of the Sangguniang Bayan, the municipal treasurer, the representative of the federation ng mga Sangguniang Kabataan in the Sangguniang Bayan, the duly elected representative of the municipal federation of parent-teacher associations, the duly elected representative of the teachers organization in the municipality, and the duly elected representative of the non-academic personnel of public school in the municipality as members. C. In the event that province or city has 2 or more school superintendents, and in the event that municipality has 2 or more district supervisors, the co-chairman of the local school boards shall determine as follows. Number 1. The Department of Education, Culture, and Sports shall designate that the co-chairman for the provincial and the city school boards. And number 2, the division superintendents of schools shall designate the district supervisor who shall serve as co-chairman of the municipal school board. D. The performance of the duties and responsibilities of the above-mentioned official and their respective local school board shall not be delegated. Next is Section 99, Functions of Local School Boards. The provincial, city, or municipal school board shall A. Determine in accordance with the criteria set by the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports the annual supplementary budgetary needs for the operation and maintenance of public schools within the province, city, or municipality, as the case may be the supplementary local cost of meeting such needs, which shall be reflected in the form of annual school board budget corresponding to its shares of the proceeds of the special on real property constituting and special education fund, and such other sources of revenue as this code and the other laws of ordinance may provide. B. Authorize the provincial, city, or municipal treasurer, as the case may be, to disburse funds from the special education funds pursuant to the budget prepared and in accordance with existing rules and regulations. C. Serve as advisory committee to the Sangguniang concerned on educational matters such as but not limited to the necessity for and the uses of local appropriations for educational purposes, and D. Recommend changes in the names of public schools within the territorial jurisdiction of the local government unit for enhancement by the Sangguniang concerns. So the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports shall consult the local school board on the appointment of division superintendents, district supervisors, school principals, and other school officials. Next is Section 100, Meetings and Quorum, Budget. A. The local school board should meet at least once a month or often as may be necessary. B. Any of the co-chairman may call a meeting. A majority of all its members shall constitute quorum. However, when the both co-chairmen are present in the meeting, the local chief executive concerned as a matter of protocol shall be given preference to preside over the meeting. The division superintendents, city superintendents, or district supervisor, as the case may be, shall prepare the budget of the school board concerned. Such as budget shall be supported by the programs, project, and activities of the school board for the ensuing fiscal year. The affirmative vote of the majority of all members shall be necessary to approve the budget. C. The annual school board budget should give priority to the following. 1. Constructions, repair, and maintenance of school buildings and other facilities of public elementary and secondary schools. 2. Establishment and maintenance of extension classes where necessary. And number 3, sports activities at the division, district, municipal, and barangay levels. Let's proceed to the Section 101, Compensation and Remuneration. The co-chairmen and members of the provincial, city, or municipal school board shall perform their duties as such without compensation or remuneration. Members thereof who are not government officials or employees shall be entitled the necessary traveling expenses and allowances chargeable against the funds of the local school boards concerned, subject to existing accounting and auditing rules and regulations. Next is Republic Act No. 9155, also known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001, provides the overall framework for principal empowerment by strengthening principal and leadership goals and local school-based and management within the context of transparency and local accountability, remaining the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports as the Department of Education and for the other purposes. Section 1, short title. This act shall be known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Section 2, Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality basic education and to make such education accessible to all, providing all Filipino children a free and compulsory education in the elementary level and free education in high school level. Such education shall also include alternative learning system for out-of-school youth and adult learners. It shall be the goal of basic education to provide them with the skills, knowledge, and values they need to become caring, self-reliant, productive, and patriotic citizens. The school shall be the heart of the formal education system. It is where the children learn. School shall have the single aim of providing the best possible basic education for all learners. Governance of basic education shall begin at the national level. It is the regions, divisions, school and learning centers, herein are referred to as the field offices, where the policy and the principle for the governance of basic education shall be translated into programs, projects, and services developed, adapted, and offered to fit local needs. The state shall encourage local initiative for improving the quality of basic education. The state shall ensure that the values, needs, and aspirations of school community are reflected in the program of education for the children out of school youth and adult learners. School and learner centers should be empowered to make decisions on what is the best for the learners they serve. Section 3. Purpose and Objectives. The purpose and objectives of this Act are: A. To provide the framework for the education governance of basic education, which shall set the general directions for educational policies and standards and establish authority, accountability, and responsibility for achieving higher learner outcomes. B. To define the roles and responsibilities of and provide resources to the field offices which shall implement education programs, projects, and services in communities they serve. C. To make school and learning centers the most important vehicle for the teaching, learning of national values and for developing in the Filipino learners love of country and pride in its rich heritage. D. To ensure that schools and learning centers receive the kind of focused attention they deserve and the educational programs, projects, and services take into account the interests of all members of the community. E. To enable the schools and learning centers to reflect the values of the community by allowing teachers, learning facilitators, and other staff to have the flexibility to serve the needs of all learners. F. To encourage local initiative for the improvements of school and learning centers and to provide the means by which these improvements may be achieved and sustained. And G. To establish schools and learning centers as facilities where school children are able to learn a range of core competences prescribed for elementary and high school education programs, or where the out-of-school youth and adult learners are provided alternative learning programs and receive accreditation for at least the equivalent of a high school education. Next is Section 4, Definition of Terms. For purpose of this act, the terms or phrases usually mean or be understood as follows. A. Alternative learning systems, or should I say ALS, is a parallel learning system to provide available alternatives to the existing format education instruction. It encompasses both the non-formal and informal sources of knowledge and skills. B. Basic education is the education intended to meet learning needs, which lays the foundation on which subsequent learning can be based. It encompasses early childhood, elementary, and high school education, as well as alternative learning system for out-of-school youth and adult learners, and includes education for those with special needs. And C. Cluster school is a group of schools which are geographically contiguous and brought together to improve the learning outcomes. Next is letter D. Formal education is the systematic and deliberate process of hierarchically structured and sequential learning corresponding to general concept of elementary and secondary level of schooling. At the end of each level, the learner needs a certificate in order to enter or advance to the next level. Letter E. Informal education is a lifelong process of learning by which every person acquires and accumulates knowledge, skills, attitudes, and insights from daily experiences at home, at work, at play, and from life itself. Letter F. Integrated schools is a school that offers a complete basic education in one school site and has a unified instructional programs. Next is letter G. Learner is any individual seeking basic literacy skills and functional life skills or support services for the improvement of the quality of his or his life. Letter H is Learning Center is a physical space to house learning resources and facilities of a learning program for out-of-school youth and adults. It is a venue for face-to-face learning activities and other learning opportunities for community development and improvement of the people's quality of life. Next is letter I. Learning Facilitator is the key learning support person who is responsible for supervising, facilitating the learning process and activities of a learner. Next is letter J. Non-formal education is any organized systematic educational activity carried outside the framework of the formal system to provide selected types of learning to a segment of the population. Letter K. Quality education is the appropriateness, relevance, and excellence of the education given to meet the needs and aspirations of an individual and society. Next is school. Is an educational institution, private and public undertaking, educational operation with a specific age group of pupils or students pursuing defined studies at defined level, receiving institution from teachers usually located in a building or a group of building in a particular physical or cyber site. And last, school head is a person responsible for administrative and instructional supervision of the school or cluster of schools. Next is the chapter 1, Governance of Basic Education. Section 5, Principle of Shared Governance. Shared governance is a principle which recognizes that every unit in the education bureaucracy has a particular role, task, and responsibility inherent in the office and for which it is principally accountable for outcomes. Next is letter B. The process of democratic consultation should be observed in the decision-making process at appropriate levels. Feedback mechanism should be established to ensure coordination and open communication of the central office with the regional division and school levels. Next is letter C. The principles of accountability and transparency should be operationalized in the performance of functions and responsibilities at all levels. And last, letter D. The communication channels of field offices should be strengthened to facilitate flow of information and expand linkages with other government agencies, local government units, and non-governmental organizations for effective governance. Next is Section 6, Governance. The Department of Education, Culture, and Sports shall henceforth be called the Department of Education. It shall be vested with authority, accountability, and responsibility for ensuring access to promoting equity in and improving the quality of basic education, arts, culture, and sports should be as provided for in Section 8 and 9 hereof. Next is Section 7. Powers, duties, and functions. The Secretary of the Department of Education shall exercise overall authority and supervisions over the operations of the department. Next is national level. In addition to his or her powers under existing laws, the Secretary of Education shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. Number 1, formulating national educational policies. Number 2, formulating a national basic education plan. Number 3, promulgating national educational standards. Number 4, monitoring and assessing national learning outcomes. Number 5, undertaking national educational research and studies. Number 6, enhancing the employment status, professional competence, welfare, and working condition of all personnel of the department. And number 7, enhancing the total development of learners through local and national programs and or projects. So the Secretary of Education should be assisted by not more than 4 under-secretaries and not more than 4 assistant secretaries whose assignments, duties, and responsibilities shall be governed by law. There shall be at least 1 undersecretary and 1 assistant secretary who shall be career executive service officers chosen from among the staff of the department. Next is regional level. There shall be as many regional offices as may be provided by law. Which regional office shall have a director, an assistant director, and an office staff for program promotion and support planning, administrative, and fiscal services. Consistent with the national educational policies, plans, and standards, the regional director shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. Number 1, defining a regional educational policy framework which reflects the values, needs, and expectations of the communities they serve. Number 2, developing a regional basic education plan. Number 3, developing regional educational standards with a view towards benchmarking for international competitiveness. Number 4, monitoring, evaluating, and assessing regional learning outcomes. Number 5, undertaking research projects and developing and managing region-wide projects which may be funded through official development, assistance, and or other funding agencies. Next is number 6, ensuring strict compliance with prescribed national criteria for the recruitment, selection, and training of all staff in the region and divisions. Number 7, formulating in coordination with the Regional Development Council the budget to support the regional educational plan which shall take into account the educational plan of the division and districts. Number 8, determining the organizations, components of division and districts, and approving the proposed staffing pattern of all employees in the division and districts. Number 9, hiring, placing, and evaluating of all employees in the regional office except for the position of assistant director. Number 10, evaluating of all divisions, superintendents, and assistant divisions superintendent in the region. Planning and managing the effective and efficient use of all personnel, physical and fiscal resources of the regional office, including professional staff development. Number 12, managing the database and management information system of the region. Number 13, approving the establishment of public and private elementary and high schools and learning centers. And last, number 14, performing such other functions as may be assigned by proper authority. Next is division level. A division shall consist of a province or a city which shall have a school division superintendent, at least one assistant school division superintendent, and an office staff for programs, promotion, planning, administrative, fiscal, legal, ancillary, and other support services. Consistent with the national educational policies, plans, and standards, the school division superintendents shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. Number 1, developing and implementing division education development plans. Number 2, planning and managing the effective and efficient use of all personnel, physical and fiscal resources of the division, including professional staff development. Number 3, hiring, placing, and evaluating all division supervisors and school district supervisor, as well as all employees in the division, both teaching and non-teaching personnel, including school heads, except for the assistant division superintendents. Number 4, monitoring the utilization of funds provided by the national government and the local government units to the school and learning centers. Number 5 is ensuring compliance of quality standards for basic education programs, and for this purpose, strengthening the role of division supervisors as subject area specialists. Number 6, promoting awareness of adherence by all school and learning centers to accreditation standards prescribed by the Secretary of Education. Number 7, supervising the operations of all public and private elementary, secondary, and integrated schools and learning centers. And number 8, performing such other functions as may be assigned by proper authority. Next is school district level. Upon the recommendation of the school division superintendents, the regional director may establish additional school district within a school divisions. School district already existing at the time of the passage of this law shall be maintained. A school district shall have a school district supervisor and an office staff for program promotion. The school's district supervisor shall be responsible for, number 1, providing professional and instructional advice and support to the school heads and teachers, facilitators of school and learning centers in district or cluster. Thereof, number 2, curricula, supervisions, and number 3, performing such other function as may be assigned by proper authorities. Next is school level. There should be a school head for all public elementary schools and public high school, or a cluster thereof. The establishment of integrated schools from existing public elementary and public high schools shall be encouraged. The school head, who may be assisted by an assistant school heads, shall be both an instructional leader and administrative manager. The school head shall form a team with the school teacher learning facilitator for delivery of quality educational programs, projects, and services. A core of non-teaching staff shall handle the school administrative, fiscal, and auxiliary services. Consistent with the national educational policies, plans, and standards, the school head shall have the authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. Number 1, setting the mission, vision, goals, and objectives of the school. Number 2, creating an environment within the school that is conducive to teaching and learning. Number 3, implementing the school curriculum and being accountable for a higher learning outcomes. Number 4, developing the school education program and school improvement plan. Next is number 5, offering educational programs, projects, and services which provide equitable opportunities for all learners in the community. Number 6, introducing new and innovative modes of instruction to achieve higher learning outcomes. Number 7, administering and managing all personnel, physical, and fiscal resources of the school. Number 8, recommending the staffing complement of the school based on its needs. And number 9, encouraging staff development. Next is number 10, establishing school and community networks and encouraging the active participation of teachers or organizations, non-academic personnel of public school, and parents-teacher community associations. Number 12, accepting donations, gifts, bequests, and grants for the purpose of upgrading teacher learning's facilitator competences, improving and expanding school facilities, and providing instructional materials and equipment. Such donation or grants must be reported to the appropriate district supervisors and division superintendents. And number 12, performing such other function as may be assigned by proper authorities. The Secretary of Education shall create a promotion board at the appropriate levels which shall formulate and implement a system of promotion for the school division supervisors, school district supervisors, and school heads. Promotion of school heads shall be based on educational qualifications, merit, and performance rather than on the number of teachers, learning facilitator, and
Good morning everyone, I am Rufa P. Artomados and today I'm going to elaborate what is the meaning of Executive Number 356 and Republic Act Number 7796. Executive Order Number 356 is the renaming of the Bureau of Non-Formal Education to Bureau of Alternative Learning System. Section 2, Functions of Bureau Alternative Learning System, is that it addresses the learning needs of the marginalized groups of the population, including the deprived, depressed, and underserved citizens. Number 2, coordinate with various agencies for skills development to enhance and ensure continuing employability, efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness in the labor market. Number 3, ensure the expansion of access to educational opportunities for citizens of different interests, capabilities, demographic characteristics, and social economic origins and status. Number 4 is to promote certification and accreditation of alternative learning programs, both formal and informal in nature, for basic education. Next, the meaning of Republic Act Number 7796 is Technical Education and Skills Development of Act 1994. TESDA was established through enactment of RA 7796, or known as Technical Education and Skills Development Act of 1994, which was signed by former President Fidel V. Ramos on August 25, 1994. This act aims to encourage the full participation of and mobilize the industry, labor, local government units, and technical vocational institutions in the skills development of the country's human resources. TESDA means Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. It aims to help individuals in developing their skills through a rigorous training program that will boost their chances of employability. Section 2 of RA 7796 states that TESDA's mandate to provide relevant, efficient, accessible, and high-quality technical education and skills development in support of the development of globally competitive Filipinos' middle-level workforce. Next, the term TVET, or known as Technical Vocational Education and Trainings, provides education and training to prepare students and other clients for employment. It also provides specific skills training for those who are already in the labor market and need to upgrade or develop new competencies to enhance chances of employment and improve productivity. Now, TESDA and TVET or TVET is promoting quality education economic development of the country because they are educating the learners to meet the demands of the industry. TESDA, on the other hand, will initiate programs and activities that would encourage wider industry participation towards the development of a globally competitive Filipino workforce. TESDA is mandated to integrate, coordinate, and monitor skills development programs, structure efforts to promote and develop middle-level manpower, approve skills, standards, and tests, develop an accreditation system for institutions involved in middle-level manpower development, funds programs and projects for technical education and skills development, and lastly, to assist trainers training program. TESDA is expected to devolve training functions to local government, reform the apprenticeship program, involve industry employers in skills training, formulate a skills development plan, develop and administer training incentives, organize skills competitions, and manage skills development funds. Next is assessment and certification system. TESDA is mandated to develop and implement a national system of skills standardization, assessment, and certification in the country. TESDA pursues the assessment and certification of the competencies of the middle-level skilled workers through the Philippine TVET Competency Assessment and Certification System, or PTCACS. It evaluates the TVET graduates and skilled workers if they have competence to perform the task that is required in the workplace and if they achieve. Overall, TESDA formulates manpower and skill plans, set appropriate skills and standards and tests, coordinates and monitors manpower policies and programs, and provide policy directions and guidelines for resource allocation for the TVET institution in private and public servers. Philippine TVET Qualification and Certification System, or PTQCS, is a quality assured system and recognition of the attainment of competencies, knowledge, skills, and attitudes as referred to the competency standards set for middle-level occupation. Now, this is the process of determining the qualification level of a person and a tool in identifying the training needs of a person with competency gap. Now, these are the qualification levels under PTQCS, our Philippine TVET Qualification Certification System, are as follows. Number 1, National Certificate 1, which means the worker performs routine and predictable tasks, has little judgment, and can work under supervision. Next is National Certificate 2, or NC2, is the worker can perform a prescribed range of functions involving known routines and procedures, has limited choice and complexity of functions, and has little accountability. Next is National Certificate 3, or NC3, is worker performs a wide range of skills, works with complexity and choices, contributes to problem solving and work processes, and shows responsibility for self and others. Lastly is the National Certificate 4, or NC4. The workers perform a wide range of applications, have responsibilities that are complex and non-routine, provides more leadership and guidance to others, perform evaluation and analysis on work practices, and develop new criteria and procedures. Now, the basis of qualification and certification. The basis are qualification, assessment, and certification. The learners must have proof of gathering methods, demonstration, observation with oral questioning, written test, third-party report, portfolio, and work projects. The National Certificate NC and the Certificate of Competency, or COC, can be attained through 1. Accumulation of achieved units of competency leading to a national qualification. Certificate of Competency, or COC, is issued to individuals who have satisfactorily demonstrated competence on a particular or a cluster units of competency. And number 2 is directly undertaking assessment toward a full national qualification, which national certificate is issued when a candidate has demonstrated competence in all units competency that comprise a qualification. TESDA implements assessment and certification for all qualification with the promulgated training regulations. The training regulation defines the knowledge, skills, and attitude values required for competent performance in the workplace. The list of promulgated training regulations may be accessed by the TESDA website. Next, assessment is conducted through any of the following: demonstration, observation with oral questioning, written test, interview, third-party report, portfolio, and submission of work projects. A student or any individual who wants to determine his qualification can be assessed. An individual may apply assessment in any of the following. A is the private TESDA accredited assessment centers. B, TESDA regional and provincial offices. C is TESDA TVET institution and assessment centers. And C, National Certificate and COC Certificate of Competency can renew their certificates upon expiration if requested by the holder and after verification in RWAC.